The walls of our apartment, those four sides adorned with pastel hues and traces of my chaotic mind, used to bear silent witness to our shared solitude every twilight as the sun went down and the city lights took over. My corporate life, a relentless predator, had an uncanny flair for hunting down my hours, leaving my hands bereft of paintbrushes and my mind devoid of nuanced thoughts that once danced their way onto my precious canvas. Against the backdrop of this unwelcome monotony, Sophie, with her patient smile and understanding eyes, was my beacon at the edge of a dark, tumultuous sea. My relationship with her was my solace, a safe haven beyond the structured confines of my corporate life. Transforming my nebulous thoughts into defining strokes on the canvas became an arduous task, challenging the very depth of my ambition. My corporate life started to consume me, wrapping its cold fingers around my dreams and squeezing the vision out of my art. Even as these bleak thoughts cast a shadow on my bursting creativity, my growing anxiety was punctuated only by the steady hum of Sophie's voice and the soft rhythm of our intimate, hushed conversations. Her presence, a soothing balm to my chaotic soul, was the only thread that kept the internal balance from tilting perilously. She understood the rhythm of my heartbeat, the ebb and flood of my soaring spirits, and the silent screams of my stifled creativity struggling against the shackles of my corporate life. And it was during these turbulent times, when day bled into night and boundaries between my roles blurred, we found ourselves breathing the same air, sharing muted whispers of encouragement under the glow of a solitary lamp. Our shared existence became as finely intertwined as the colors on my palette. Despite the overwhelming pressure, sandwiched between her silent strength and the trails of colors I left on my canvas, I found a sense of peace. But onto this ever-changing canvas of life, where the dance of duality fluttered between my profession and passion, an ominous hue began to creep. On the chilly evening of February 27, 2021, the balance of our shared reality shook on its fragile axis. The looming disagreement, a reflection of my day-to-day battle, was no longer just rumbling thunder on a distant horizon. It was a brewing storm, ready to unleash itself at any moment. Sophie and I stood on the brink of an impending fallout, a dispute that was essentially an echo of my inner conflict. This fight, it wasn't just about the art or the corporate obligations. It was about me trying to reconcile my passion with my reality, my dreams with my responsibility, my creative aspiration with my corporate identification. She'd been urging me to introspect deeply, to observe my wilting spirit beneath the crushing weight of corporate life. On a strangely somber March 10, 2021, I found myself entangled within the brushstrokes of this dilemma, my reflections casting long, distorted shadows on my mind's canvas. I recall standing alone that cold evening, my gaze transfixed on an unfinished painting, its grisly echoes of frustration mirroring the conflict embroiling within me. And it was within that deafening silence, that solitude, my decision began to manifest. Following what felt like an eternity of contemplation, my hands trembling from the gravity of the choice ahead, I decided to take the leap. One by one, I penned my resignation letter, every word dripping of the unease and anticipation swelling in my heart. My heart thumped against my ribs, each beat screaming against the shackles of conformity, vying for the freedom to exist in the pure embrace of my art. I was aware of the risk. My decision was akin to jumping from a plane, relying solely on a parachutes woven from the feeble threads of my aspirations. Yet, this feeling of liberation was soon clouded by an uncompromising reality, the impending consequences of my decision. Despite resigning from my corporate life, my relationship with Sophie hung like a threadbare tapestry, fraying at the edges, fraught with vulnerability. That's when it hit me. My choice to pursue art hadn't solely affected me. It reverberated through our shared reality, casting long, ominous shadows on our once blissful existence. A bittersweet pang of sorrow gripped me, the realization that my drive for creative freedom had inadvertently cost me something precious. My decision, steeped in my desire for artistic liberation, was a double-edged sword, one that carved out the path to my dreams while heedlessly scraping against the harmony of our relationship. So, here I was, ready to embrace my new life. I had bade my farewell to the sterilized four walls of my office cubicle. Yet, I found myself tangled in another predicament, Sophie. The woman who had shared her laughter and tears with me now stared at the man who appeared as a stranger to her, I could sense the fear in her gaze, uncertainty pooling in those beautiful hazel eyes. Our shared dreams, our shared apartment suddenly felt alien to us both. It was like we were teetering on the edge of a cliff. One wrong move and we would fall into the chasm of heartbreak. Though pained about how much my decision had affected Sophie, it was time I faced another truth. We were bound by love, not by the constraints of my job. In the days following my resignation, our once harmonious relationship was consumed by an uncomfortable quiet. During the day, I would throw myself into my work, trying to navigate through colors, strokes, and textures, losing myself in abstract figures with my mind wading through waves of self-doubt and apprehension. The nights were even harder, my dreams echoing Sophie's palpable silence, her presence in our once shared space growing fainter with each passing day. I couldn't blame her, though. We were worlds apart, embroiled in our own battles. She was grappling with the unfamiliar version of Andrew, struggling to locate the man she'd fallen in love with, while I was embracing the free-falling sensation of being lost in creativity. March 15th, 2021 marked the fateful end of our love story. Our once-adorned apartment walls reverberated with the deafening silence of her absence. As I packed her things, each object screamed of the memories we had created in this space, a cruel testament to our dissipating shared life. Looking back, I don't think there were enough words or brushes in the world that could have painted the void she left behind. For in that parting moment, I realized that I had traded a piece of my heart, my relationship with Sophie, for a love affair with my art. Yes, my canvas was now my companion, my colors a reflection of my emotions, my brushes stories untold. But as I sat amidst the silence of my once shared life with Sophie, I wondered, was this price for my passion truly worth it? Bereft of Sophie's company and comfort, my solitude was punctuated by the echo of colors and brushes on canvas. The swirls of paint and the whirls of my thoughts started to merge, creating an exquisite chaos that felt frighteningly beautiful. Each shade of paint I mixed, each stroke I sketched was a word in the silent conversation with my soul, a catharsis I was indulging in to ease the void Sophie's departure had created. A month passed by in what seemed like a blink of an eye. My days were dominated by various shades of blue, the deep hues mirroring my melancholy, the lighter ones shadowing my glimmers of hope. The rustle of brushes against canvas, the scent of paints and turpentine filled my studio, seeping into my senses. The initial days were torturous, to say the least, with my angst channeling itself through erratic curves and tumultuous splatters on my canvas. I found myself pouring all the heartache into my artwork. Her radiant smile, the intense gaze of her eyes, the way her fingers caressed my hair, every single memory subtly seeping into my artwork. It was painful, yet incredibly liberating. The canvas was my confidant, my most patient listener. From the trembling streak of red symbolizing our heated arguments, the soft stroke of maroon reminiscing the warmth of her embrace, to the abrupt stroke of gray representing our untimely separation, every color had a story, a memory, and then a breakthrough. Around late March began an artwork that gradually morphed into something deeply personal. Each line, each saturation, was a vivid exploration of my troubled emotions. I sketched, painted, imbued affection, mourning, resentment, and a strange sense of detachment, crafting an artwork as raw and real as the pain I felt. The result was a painting I would title, Sophie, My Ode, My Closure. As I stared longingly at the beauty of my pain depicted vividly through Sophie, it dawned upon me. Yes, it hurt. It felt like a horrid nightmare at times, but it was worth the pain. With Sophie finally complete, I couldn't help but feel like I had just overlooked a vast precipice, heart pounding and minds racing, only to find a newfound tranquility. It was almost like standing in the eye of a storm. Chaos ensued all around, yet I was astonishingly still. The same hands that had trembled with pain and sadness had sketched the painful memory of a love lost. The same fingers that had strummed tunes of romance that once intertwined with hers had poured my heartache onto the canvas. Suddenly my art was more than just a mere profession or hobby. It was my lifeline, my sanctuary, my fortress in the storm. I could paint my doubts, insecurities, and heartbreak, extracting them from the depths of my consciousness and leaving them there on the canvas. A part of me was always left behind in my art pieces, tangible remnants of my vulnerability and strength etched in the strokes of paint. Sophie's painting was a turning point, not just artistically, but emotionally too. Creating it was like etching my scars into a canvas and acknowledging their existence rather than letting them fester in silence. I gave form to my pain, analyzing it, understanding it, and finally letting it go. It gradually transformed me, molding my artistry through the crucible of my personal tribulations. The beauty of creation was right there, in my capacity to transform even the most profound pain into a masterpiece. This didn't mean the pain vanished overnight, far from it, but my relationship with it changed. Instead of resenting it, I embraced it. The hurt powered my art. It fueled the creative engine within me and freed me from the shackles of emotional turmoil. It was in the midst of suffering that the true strength of my art emerged. As I gazed at Sophie, I saw sorrow and love, despair and longing. My spirit reflected on this canvas, in myriad hues and shades, in every brushstroke and detail. It was during these moments, silent contemplations amidst the aroma of paints, squinting eyes studying the details of Sophie, teetering on the edge of inner turmoil and creative ecstasy, that I found clarity. I realized this journey, with all its pains and heartbreaks, was exactly where I was meant to be. Art was no longer just a part of me, it was me. This realization hit me hard. I had become my art, and my art had become a reflection of my life. The scars of my journey were now indelibly inked into my work, a testament to my resilience and passion. Strangely, this heightened sense of awareness didn't daunt me. Instead, it empowered me with a confidence I hadn't felt before. I was driven, not by the pursuit of success, but by the imperative of authenticity to my own feelings. It was an awakening of sorts, my metamorphosis into an artist in the truest sense. With the completion of Sophie, I realized I wasn't just painting a canvas with colors. I was weaving endless emotions, thoughts, fears, and dreams into a tapestry of self-expression. This newfound understanding brought a profound change in how I viewed my art. Suddenly, it wasn't just about painting what I see, but also painting what I feel. I realized my art was my companion, the one I turn to when I'm down, the one I celebrate with when I'm up. It took me in my brokenness, giving me comfort and a sense of purpose. How tightly interwoven were my life, my feelings, and my art. It was an epiphany of sorts, for how could I ever separate who I was from what I created? Each stroke of my brush was an intricate blend of my inspirations, my battles, my joys, my heartbreak, and the raw emotions that I felt every waking moment. I became cognizant of the potent energy of my personal experiences and feelings, and how they were constantly shaping and reshaping my art. My experiences no longer lingered in the past, but instead extended themselves into my present, shaping every stroke, every swirl of paint on my canvas. As I looked at Sophie, I saw more than just colors and shapes. I saw my resilience, my love, my pain. Within the curves and shading, I saw fragments of myself that were once shattered, now reborn through a self-reflective journey of creative expression. Each detail of the painting was a testament to the enduring battle within myself, a battle I was no longer afraid to confront. What may have seemed like mere artwork to others was, for me, an embodiment of my struggle, my victories, my evolution. At that moment, I realized the balance within. It came not from fighting my emotions, but from embracing them, understanding them, and portraying them through my art. My paintbrush became my tool to navigate the ebbs and flows of emotional upheaval, and my canvases, reflections of my innermost emotions. My obsession that once severed my relationship with Sophie was now the bridge I used to connect with my own self in ways I never had before. It was a transformative journey, one that brought me peace, understanding, and most importantly, a breakthrough in my artistic expression. During these silent contemplations between me, my art, and the tranquility of my studio, I discovered my purpose. Looking around, surrounded by the intoxicating smell of paints mixing with the soft hums of the city from my studio window, I found the path I had been yearning for. I was an artist, yes, but more than that, I was a storyteller of my own life with paint as my prose. The canvas was my biography, each artwork a chapter, each stroke a fleeting moment and emotion, elegantly imprinted for eternity. It's funny how a simple realization can free you, not just from chains of apprehension, but from the chains of self-doubt and regret. This symphony of revelation left me standing in the center of my studio, a smile of contentment on my face, the reassuring strokes of my paintbrush echoing in the silence of the room. Through my art, I was ready to engage in a candid conversation with both the world and myself. With the realization of what my art truly meant to me, I felt empowered, as if layers of weight were lifting off my chest. My journey, my experiences, those burning emotions that never quieted, found a voice in my art. This understanding gave me carte blanche to let my emotions run wild on the canvas, not with fear, but with renewed vigor, driven by a mission greater than myself. I was no longer misunderstood, repressed, eager soul stuck in a mundane corporate job. Having leapt off the proverbial cliff, I had landed not on my feet, but on a cloud of creativity. Every day became a dance between my haunting past, my vibrant present, and my hopeful future. Art had become an open book, a chronicle where I was both the author and reader. I discovered pieces of myself lodged in each corner, each shadow of my art, each dash of color and each curve. Sometimes it was my pain, whipping out with furious intensity. At other times it was my joy, serenely floating across the canvas like a slow stream. Every emotion bloomed in my art, becoming more than just a part of my history, but a lighthouse guiding my future. Late nights turned into early mornings as I painted endlessly, my studio echoing my symphony of colors and emotions. I had forsaken stability, yes, but what I found in return was unapologetically, unmistakably me. Losing myself in swirls of paint didn't seem scary anymore. It became a journey of self-discovery, underpinned by the rhythm of my soul. Each piece I created was like peeling back layers of myself that I didn't know existed. A form of liberation unfolded itself, a liberation from societal norms, from the constraints of a conventional life, and from my own innate fear of failure. I settled into this new life, the life I had chosen, the life I had fought for, filled with vibrant colors, relentless imagination, and all-encompassing passion. Each day was an adventure, and my canvas, the treasure map. The studio that once felt like a dream was now my reality, my sanctuary, my voice, my mirror. And yes, there were days of self-doubt, days when imposter syndrome would creep in, knuckles clenching the brush a tad too tight. But in those moments, I looked around at my studio walls adorned with my creations, each one a testimony to my talent, my resilience, my story. Every single piece infused me with validation that no external critique or accolade could ever provide. This renewed belief in myself and my journey nudged away the overbearing clouds of doubt. Mornings arrived with a sense of purpose, filled with the sweet scent of paints mixed with a dose of excitement and trepidation. Those blank canvases staring at me were no longer intimidating or daunting, but promising. Promising of endless possibilities, and promising of battles that I was not afraid to fight anymore. My art was no longer a hobby relegated to spare moments. It was my very way of life, my truth, my salvation. As I stood there, amidst the vivid colors splashed across the room, I could see my evolution echoing in the silence of my studio. From a corporate employee splitting his life, to an artist unafraid to bare his heart through his art, my journey had come full circle. I had lost love, but I had found myself, and through Sophie, I had left a piece of my story in the annals of the world.